The words of my perfect teacher has two parts: the proper way to listen to the teaching and the teaching itself. The first part covers the right attitude and right conduct. We've finished studying the part on the right attitude. Now we are studying right conduct, which includes the conduct of the body, speech, and mind. Right conduct has two aspects: what to avoid and what to do. Conduct to avoid includes the 3 defects of the pot, the 6 stains, and the 5 wrong ways of remembering. While listening to teachings and practicing the Dharma, we must avoid all these wrong conducts. Otherwise, our practice won't be successful. Today, we start to learn what to do, the conduct to be adopted. 2.2 What to do. The conduct to be adopted while listening to teachings is explained as the 4 metaphors, the 6 transcendent perfections, and other modes of conduct. 2.2.1 The 4 metaphors. While studying the Dharma, we should always keep in mind the 4 metaphors. The Flower Garland Sutra says, "Noble one, you should think of yourself as a sick person, of the Dharma as the miraculous medicine, of your spiritual teacher as a skillful doctor, and of diligent practice as the way to cure the illness." First, think of yourself as a critically ill patient, constrained by karma and defilements since beginningless time, the Dharma as the medicine which can cure your diseases, the qualified teacher as a skillful doctor, and your diligent practice as the medical treatment. In his wish-fulfilling treasury, Longchenpa quotes scriptural evidence from the Dasadharma Sutra, Discourse on 10 Dhammas, to explain how a practitioner should think while studying the Dharma. In his The Precious Treasury of Pith Instructions, Longchenpa introduces the 6 metaphors when following a teacher, such as thinking of the teacher as a captain, a helmsman, a person in power, an escort, and more. In the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, Lama Tsongkhapa also introduced 6 metaphors, the first 4 of which are identical to that covered in the Flower Garland Sutra, and added the last 2. Think of the Tathagatas as excellent beings, and wish that the teaching will endure for a long time, in the list. More specifically, here is the meaning of the 5th thought, thinking of the Tathagatas as excellent beings, in Lama Tsongkhapa's teaching. Because during the degenerate age, we don't have the opportunity to see the Buddha in person, and because the Dharma is expounded by qualified teachers, then seeing the teachers is no different from seeing the Buddha. Here is the meaning of the 6th thought, wishing that the teaching will endure for a long time. The Dharma has to be taught and received properly and correctly if it is to be retained long in this world. Buddhists should not only learn and remember the Dharma without error, but also motivate others to do the same. Only by doing so will the authentic Dharma survive and thrive. It is very important to think in these ways when studying and practicing the Dharma. If you think of the teacher as a doctor or the teacher as the Buddha in accordance with the teachings in other scriptures, then the teachings will definitely bring you benefits and eliminate your illness of negative karmas and afflictions. Otherwise, if you think you exceed the teacher, that the Dharma is not very precious, that you don't have the illness of karmas and afflictions, and that diligent practice is just a formality, you literally turn the 4 metaphors upside down. Then, even if the Buddha were right in front of you, his teachings would be of no use to you. Therefore, when studying the Dharma, it is very important to have the right mindset. This is like a person studying worldly knowledge. They need to respect the teacher and appreciate the teaching. They should put themselves in a humble position and study diligently with a strong eagerness for knowledge. Such conduct is very basic for a worldly student. Otherwise, if the person disrespects the teacher and rejects the teaching, even if they are accepted by a top university, their mind stream won't be changed by the knowledge they have received after years of study. Therefore, if you truly want to merge eminent masters' teachings into your mind, you have to establish the right mindset. Specifically, we need to understand this. Since the beginningless time, we have been deeply trapped in the immense ocean of suffering in samsara. We are sick due to being tormented by the illness of the three poisons and their fruit, the three kinds of suffering. All beings in the three realms have the 84,000 different types of afflictions, including desire, anger, and ignorance, and these are the cause of being's illness. Besides, they have also been tormented by the fruit of these afflictions, the three kinds of suffering. Some people believe they are fortunate enough to be exempted from these three sufferings. In fact, if you know the nature of samsara, you will know that however happy you seem to be now, you won't avoid suffering unless you attain realization, which is the only way to enjoy great bliss in the worldly and transcendental manner. The so-called happiness in samsara carries the nature of suffering. However, people mistakenly believe that having the three poisons of desire, anger, and ignorance is totally normal, and that it is precisely the lack of the three poisons that brings them suffering. For example, a young man wants to devote himself to the Dharma instead of getting married. People around him will consider him weird, gossiping that he has either physical or mental problems. These people don't know that they themselves are actually deranged, not the young man, because their own actions are driven by afflictions. As many eminent masters have said, the world we are living in is a crazy world because our mind is wrapped by the darkness of ignorance, so the light of wisdom and compassion never shines. Therefore, we must first realize that we are critically ill. Take, for example, someone who has leprosy, tuberculosis, and more. To eradicate the physical pain and regain health, the patient will search everywhere for a good doctor who has experience, knowledge, and empathy. The person will then follow the doctor's advice, take the prescribed medicine, and do all they can to get cured. When I was in major hospitals in Shanghai, Beijing, or Chengdu, I noticed thousands of patients come and go. Some were young, some were old, some were children, and all of them were tormented by various illnesses. To get well, they searched for the best doctor and then received whatever treatment the doctor prescribed. In the same way, we should cure ourselves of the diseases of karma, afflictions, and sufferings by following a skillful doctor, our qualified teacher, by pleasing and serving the teacher in three ways, by fully following the teacher's words, and by taking the medicine of the Dharma. Only through this can we eradicate the disease of karma and suffering. We should always vow to try our very best to follow the Guru, serve and please the Guru, and practice the Dharma throughout the rest of this life. Most teachers tame their disciples' minds through expounding the Sutrayana and Vajrayana teachings. There are very few exceptional masters who tamed disciples through different skillful means, like the ways Marpa tamed Milarepa as described in Milarepa's biography, and Tilopa tamed Naropa as recorded in Naropa's biography. In this scenario, the disciple must follow the Guru with pure perception. As Patrul Rinpoche says, with pure perception, the disciple sees the Guru as the Buddha and follows and serves the Guru wholeheartedly. Then the disciple can attain liberation and enlightenment very easily. When following a Guru, ordinary people tend to have various conceptual thoughts. But when the Guru is indeed a great achieved master or a bodhisattva whose behaviors may be hard to understand, as long as the disciples take the Guru's words seriously as teachings, they can still achieve their spiritual goals. The biography of the first Jetsun Dampa, Tenpe Gyaltsen, 1635 to 1723, records such a story. When Jetsun Dampa began his pursuit of the Dharma, he lived a very frugal life and didn't have enough food to eat. To alleviate his poverty, he decided to do the yellow Jambala practice. So, he asked a coppersmith to cast a statue of Jambala for him. When the statue was done, Jetsun Dampa carried it happily to his guru Ngawang Lobsang Choden, 1642 to 1714, who was a very renowned master. When Jetsun Dampa finally managed to see his guru, he put the statue in front of his guru, prostrated under his feet with reverence, and asked for consecration. Before Ngawang Lobsang Chodin was able to consecrate the statue, his dog came over and peed directly on the statue. Seeing this, Jetsun Dampa felt the statue was tainted and dependent arising was destroyed, so he was upset about the dog. But Ngawang Lobsang Chodin told him, "My dog is not an ordinary dog. You don't need me for consecration anymore. My dog has done it." Feeling a bit concerned, Jetsun Dampa chose to nevertheless hold pure perception on this. He brought the statue back home, put it on his shrine table, and started to practice diligently. Soon his economic situation improved significantly. In fact, he became quite wealthy and eventually became a great master of his generation. According to historical record, Jetsun Dampa also served as the national master for the Kangxi Emperor. In his teachings, Jetsun Dampa often said, "Whatever the Guru says is the Vajra word, which carries extraordinary blessings and dependent origination." Therefore, if the Guru is a great achieved master, their words carry hidden meaning and extraordinary connections. By following the Guru's teaching and practicing accordingly, the disciples will surely attain realization. There are some doctors of Chinese medicine or Tibetan medicine who give seemingly weird and useless prescriptions, which in fact really work. Of course, in the world of medicine, there are also charlatan doctors who barely know anything. Similarly, in the world of Buddhism, there are charlatan gurus whose deeds are not for the disciples' liberation, but for their own worldly pursuits, such as fame and status. Therefore, make sure you remain wise and alert so you can discern the difference between a qualified teacher and a charlatan. After examining the guru and being assured that they are a qualified teacher, you can rely on them like a patient relies on a great doctor. By doing so, you can eradicate the disease of afflictions. On the other hand, following a teacher, even after many years, without putting the teaching into real practice, is like rejecting your doctor's prescriptions, which leaves no opportunity for the teacher to treat your illness. As Shantideva says, "What invalids in need of medicine ignored their doctor's words and gained their health?" How can your disease be cured if you disobey your doctor? Therefore, when following the teacher, make sure you do what the teacher says. When the teacher asks you to do a certain practice, simply do it. If the teacher asks you to do this and you choose to do something else, your illness of the three poisons will never get cured. For example, if the teacher asks you to study the middle way, you study Buddhist logic instead. If the teacher asks you to practice ngondro, preliminary practices, you practice togal, the main practice of direct crossing, instead. The teacher asks you to study the pith instructions on mind training, and you study the Bardo teachings instead. All of these are just like when the doctor has given you a prescription. You choose to disregard it, and instead you choose a different medicine yourself. This will hardly work. Please reflect on today's teachings of the four metaphors and on how to follow a teacher. Comparing to my previous teaching on the words of my perfect teacher, I cover less content from the text this time in each class. This slow-paced teaching also gives me the opportunity to read the text thoroughly again. I hope you'll do the same thing and carefully contemplate the contents back and forth. Although the text seems simple, many profound pith instructions are embedded between the lines. If you are able to uncover these pith instructions and put them into practice, you will definitely receive great benefit from them. Therefore, we are not in a hurry studying the text. I will just take my time in my teaching. Sometimes I find myself a bit wordy and repetitive, but if I bring up important points again and again, this will help you understand and internalize the teachings. I always believe the words of my perfect teacher can bring significant changes to a person's lifelong practice. Many people have told me that the way of the Bodhisattva has changed them a lot, but in my case, the effect of the words of my perfect teacher far exceeds that of the way of the Bodhisattva on my own practice. Although I myself didn't study the text very well, which I feel a bit embarrassed about, I dare to announce that among all the texts I've studied in my life, my faith in the words of my perfect teacher is among the strongest. Although my teaching of the text is far from being perfect, I hope to successfully share with you my special connection with the text in my own words this time. You should carefully contemplate the Vajra words of Poljul Rinpoche back and forth, checking how you understand them. If you can carefully contemplate and apply the 4 metaphors you have learned today, let alone other parts of the text, the overall direction of your lifetime practice is pretty much all set. Not taking the medicine of the Dharma, which means not putting the teaching into real practice, is comparable to having countless medications beside your bed but never using them. This will never bring about a cure for your illness. The Sutra of Persuading One to Generate Supreme Aspirations says, "I've taught you the supreme Dharma, yet you don't practice the Dharma. It is like a patient who doesn't take medicine. Even the Buddha cannot save him." The Buddha has taught us the Dharma, but if we don't practice the Dharma, we will be like the patient who is very sick, yet refuses the prescribed medicines. However good the doctor is, the patient cannot recover. Besides prescribing medication and offering treatment, the doctor has no other way to cure disease. Because the doctor is well trained in medical science, they know why we get sick and how to treat our illness, so we must listen to the doctor. Modern people tend to listen to the doctor if they are physically ill, but when they are mentally ill, few will listen to the guru. Many people like to make up their minds regarding Dharma practice. However, these people haven't been swimming in the ocean of Dharma for long, so although they might know a little bit of Buddhist teachings, they are still far away from reaching the state of the guru. Therefore, we should avoid being judgmental toward the guru and their teachings. Neither should we bargain with the guru. As long as the guru is a qualified teacher, they will definitely care about the success of your practice. Therefore, please practice according to the guru's advice. It is thus that you will have the chance to succeed in practice. In contrast, if you only follow your own gut feeling or conceptual thoughts, thinking, "The guru is not right, I think I'd better practice something else," it means you have already established the path of practice for yourself. Then why bother following the guru? This is like a patient who receives a prescription from the doctor, but thinks, "This is not right, I'd better take another medicine." Why then bother going to the doctor? The Buddhist center where we study and practice the Dharma is like a hospital. For example, Larungar is like a big hospital where Dharma doctors, nurses, and medical specialists are treating patients with mental issues coming from everywhere around the country and the world. It's better if the patients take the Dharma prescriptions and medicines. I don't think all the Dharma teachers at Larungar are highly accomplished practitioners who have attained certain bhumis or stages of the Bodhisattva path. But at least the Dharma teachers have certain qualifications and have grasped the basics of the Buddha's teachings. This is similar to doctors in a hospital who must have medical degrees or certificates to treat patients. Nowadays, Buddhist centers greatly need Dharma teachers who are like good doctors. There are tens of thousands of people with mental health issues living in a city, more than the number of people with physical diseases. But how many qualified teachers, the doctors, are there in the city who can provide treatment for mental illness? I am sure you also know the answer is not too many. Therefore, once you encounter a good Dharma doctor, you should follow his prescription for a long while. A Kadampa master says, "Beings in the 3 realms are patients with chronic diseases, so just taking the medicine once or twice is barely effective for treatment. Some people have very naive thoughts such as, I've received the highest empowerment and I've practiced for over a month, so why haven't I attained realization and why am I still trapped by afflictions? I took my ordination 3 years ago, but why do I still have desires? Dear Guru, does it mean my practice has gone wrong? Such thoughts are not right. Our afflictions are deeply rooted within us. Since beginningless time, we have been repeating and reinforcing our afflictions in samsara. Therefore, the time we have spent practicing the Dharma is in no way comparable to the time we have spent developing afflictions. Just like a long-time bedridden patient won't fully recover immediately after receiving just one shot or taking one pill. When I was sick, my doctor told me, just receiving one shot is not enough. You have to receive injections 3 times a day, plus IV therapy. Is that okay with you? I trust my doctor. After all, my body won't recover without receiving enough medicine. Similarly, when more and more Dharma medicine enters your mind, your mental health issues are more likely to be resolved. In comparison, nowadays some people treat the Dharma as a panacea, hoping that after listening to teachings once or twice, their afflictions will be gone completely. Or they hope that after receiving an empowerment or blessings, they will attain realization in no time. They think when they enter the Guru's room as ordinary people, they will be transformed into first Bhumi Bodhisattvas upon exiting the room. However nice this would be, it is just daydreaming. Such things are unlikely to happen. Without consistently taking in the nectar of the Dharma over time, we are unlikely to attain liberation. We must frequently practice the teachings we have received. As Patrul Rinpoche says, without practice, what is the use of Dharma at the moment of our death? Nowadays, many people believe, as long as I pray to my Guru, asking him to take care of me with his compassion, it's highly possible for me to attain liberation without practicing the Dharma. Dear Guru, I give myself totally to you. When you go to the blissful Pure Land, don't forget to take me with you. If not, you have no mercy on me. This is as if they are signing a contract with the Guru to make sure that when the Guru goes to the realm of the Buddha Amitabha, the students will be taken along. Such people seem very optimistic, saying, my Guru is a great enlightened master. He has promised me that I will definitely be reborn in the Pure Land. Even if I have done many terrible things, there won't be any consequences because my Guru is an extraordinary teacher. They think the teacher is omnipotent, so that they are exempted from experiencing the karmic results, even if they have accumulated many negative deeds. They believe that the teacher, in their compassion, will toss them up into a pure realm as easily as throwing a pebble. Such a thought is not right. A qualified teacher does have compassion, but it is still hard for them to get you liberated simply out of their compassion. In the 3,000-fold universe, the Buddha has the greatest wisdom, compassion, and power. The Buddha loves all beings as if each were his only child. Nevertheless, when the Buddha was in this world, there still existed many beings who didn't believe in Buddhism. Even though the Buddha had great compassion toward all of them, he couldn't toss them up to the pure heavenly realms. Many things are not as simple as we think they are. The Buddha said, the karmas of all beings cannot be washed away by water. The sufferings of all beings cannot be eliminated directly by the Buddha. The wisdom of the Buddha cannot be transferred to the mind of all beings. Through expounding teachings of tranquility and suchness, the Buddha liberates all beings. Thus, other than offering teachings to sentient beings, the Buddha cannot literally lift them one by one to the heavenly realms. The homage verse in the Ornament of Clear Realization says that Prajna Paramita, the mother of the Buddha, guides the 4 noble ones, Shravakas, Pratika Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and Buddhas, and the only purpose for the Buddha attaining enlightenment is to benefit all beings through turning the Dharma wheel. The last chapter of the Ornament of Clear Realization, the Dharmakaya, says, through teaching the Dharma, the Buddha establishes some in the support of the path, some on the path of accumulation, and some in the fruition. All three activities pertain to teaching the Dharma, so the only way the Buddha liberates sentient beings is through turning the Dharma wheel. It is the same for the Guru. It is good if you have trust and faith in the Guru. After all, if a patient doesn't respect and listen to a doctor, then whatever medicine the doctor prescribes will be of no use to the patient. But even if the patient has fervent trust in the doctor, just relying on the doctor's compassion for recovery without taking medicine or receiving injections isn't realistic. If the doctor happens to be a bad-tempered person, they may even throw you out, yelling, "What can I do if you don't take the medicine? My only way to treat you is to prescribe the right medicine. The only way you can get well is to take the medicine. Otherwise, it is of no use to stick with me all the time." However, some people may have too much faith in the Guru, and they think, "My Guru is always blessing me. I don't need to take good care of my wallet. I am sure it won't get lost since I am blessed by the Guru." Well, this might not be the case because the Guru's own wallet is often lost or stolen. The audience laughs aloud. So you'd better not expect the Guru to give blessings on those things. The Guru is indeed full of compassion, but make sure you understand what exactly the Guru's compassion is. I often ponder this. Great masters such as Jigphuntsok Rinpoche are really compassionate because they guide us ignorant beings into the truth of reality through Dharma and liberate us from the abyss of samsara. So their compassion is far greater than that of our parents. Our parents have been truly kind to us. They taught us how to walk, eat, and dress. But other than those daily living skills, they never taught us how to eliminate the long-lasting suffering of samsara. In contrast, the teacher takes us under their care with compassion, expounds profound teachings, tells us what to do and what not to do, and shows us the path to liberation taught by the Buddha. According to the Kadampa's instruction, that which accords with the Buddha's teaching is the authentic Dharma, and that which does not is spurious. To examine whether a guru has compassion, one must check whether their teaching is consistent with the sutras and shastras. If not, then this guru might have their own personal secret agenda. If yes, this guru indeed has compassion, and there is no greater compassion than this. Many disciples think that the compassion of a guru is other than their teaching the supreme Dharma. They think the guru is compassionate if they call them often, take them on a pilgrimage, or have dinner with them. This definition of a guru's compassion is wrong. During the process of a disciple following a guru, if the guru never teaches the Dharma, but instead sends the disciple to run errands every day, it is very hard for the disciple to attain realization, unless the guru is a great achieved master like Marpa. In general, when a guru accepts a disciple, the guru should teach the Dharma to the disciple. It is not enough that the guru just calls the disciple, gives them some cash, or comforts them when in need. As for the disciple, they should keep the guru's teachings in mind and always put them into practice. It is unrealistic to think that after giving teachings, the guru will supervise you every day, as a parent watches his child doing homework to ensure you've remembered everything. A qualified teacher starts to give teachings when the teacher is a young adult or a middle-aged person. After finishing teaching the disciples who have an affinity with them, the teacher then goes to another realm or place due to various reasons. Many qualified teachers I've met in my life are like this. Some were reborn in a pure realm, and others went elsewhere. None of them stayed with us forever. It is just like when you finished elementary school. Your elementary school teacher didn't follow you further, and when you finished high school, your high school teacher didn't accompany you to university. Except for a very few disciples with immense merits, most people don't have the opportunity to always be with their teacher. Therefore, while you are still able to hear the Guru's teachings, make sure you keep them in mind and always put them into practice. It is up to us whether or not we take advantage of the teacher's compassion and actually embark on the path to liberation. As the old saying goes, the Master brings us in, and now the practice is up to ourselves. The Buddha also told his disciples, "I have shown you the methods that lead to liberation. But you should know that liberation depends upon yourself." This is the Buddha's way of helping us, giving teachings such as the Four Noble Truths to his numerous ocean-like disciples. Good disciples follow the Buddha's instructions and eventually attain enlightenment. Bad disciples don't follow what the Buddha says. Instead, they generate wrong views toward the Buddha and eventually fall into the three lower realms. Now that we have the freedom and advantage of human life and we know what to do and what not to do, our decision at this critical moment, where we have the freedom to choose, signifies the turning point that will determine our destiny, for better or worse, far into the future. It is of utmost importance that we choose between samsara and nirvana once and for all, and put the teacher's instructions into real practice. Now that we can listen to teachings, whether our future is bright or dark totally depends on ourselves. Some people are very wise in this respect. Yesterday, a Buddhist who is a college student studying abroad decided to forgo everything and become a nun at Ladungar. Normally, a prospective monk or nun needs a 4-month probationary period before officially taking ordination. But she was very determined to immediately take ordination, saying the turning point about whether she will have eternal liberation or eternal suffering is now because everything in life is meaningless except becoming a monastic. Her words made sense. Since she had forgone everything, family, career, and studies, it seemed she really meant it. Therefore, after careful consideration, I decided to exempt her from probation and give her ordination right away. Each of us thinks differently. Some can let go easily while others cannot. Regardless, you should all know that now is the most crucial moment. Now that you have a precious human life and have heard the Dharma, with such rare causes and conditions, your future depends on yourself. If you conduct wholesome deeds, you will have a good rebirth or go to the land of great bliss. If you conduct unwholesome deeds, you will have a bad rebirth and experience ceaseless suffering. After following a qualified teacher, you should completely follow their instructions and practice steadily. By doing so, you can discern the borderline between samsara and nirvana. This is very crucial. Nowadays, when following a teacher, many Dharma students are like detectives. They investigate the Dharma teaching in this center today, and tomorrow they'll move to another center, or they rely on this teacher today and that teacher tomorrow. In the end, they follow too many teachers and eventually get so lost. What a pity. After reflecting on my own experience from many years of study and practice, I suggest that you first find a qualified teacher with an altruistic mind and great compassion, and then follow that teacher wholeheartedly for a long time. Following a teacher half-heartedly does you no good. For example, a Dharma student follows a teacher who tells them the Kshitigarbha Sutra is very good, so the student recites that sutra for a few days. But soon, the student finds another teacher who says the Diamond Sutra is supreme, so the student starts to recite that sutra instead. Despite having had no good sign through reciting the sutras, the student then goes to the Tibetan plateau and finds a third teacher there and practices Yamantaka for a few days. This student has sampled many different practices, switching from one teacher to another constantly, but in the end, the practice is in vain. So, sutras, shastras, and tantras all say that before following a teacher, a disciple should examine them. After following a qualified teacher, it is better to follow them for as long as possible. When I was following Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche, there were also other great masters around. I personally didn't have any negative views about those masters. It was just that I felt I had received enough teachings for my practice, and the key was to put all those teachings into real practice. So I didn't choose to follow those other great masters. If you always follow the teacher's instructions and practice accordingly, you won't be falling into the lower realms. The Samyuktagama, Connected Discourse, says, practicing the virtue in the long nights, but falling into the lower realms and experiencing negative consequence, there is no such a thing. If you practice the authentic Dharma for a long time, it is impossible for you to fall into the 3 lower realms or experience negative karmic consequences. Of course, ordinary people's motivation for conducting wholesome deeds is relatively weak. But as long as you try your very best, you can still do something virtuous. For example, every day from morning until night, you occasionally generate unwholesome thoughts, deluded ideas, or negative emotions. But as long as you spend most of your time focused on hearing, contemplation, and meditation, and live your whole life in such a manner, your liberation will be guaranteed. Some monastic members at Larungar have felt they had bad thoughts arising every day, so they were concerned whether they would be reborn in a lower realm. Well, you don't commit killing, stealing, or other wrongdoings every day. Instead, you are upholding precepts and reciting mantras every day. Since the law of karma never fails, definitely your practice will bring you liberation. With the blessings of the Guru and the 3 jewels, now you can practice the Dharma. Therefore, you should often make aspirations in your mind. In this short life, I wish my faith will never regress. I vow not to slander the Dharma and not to do anything against the Dharma. The power of aspiration can be very strong. Now that you have met the true Dharma and the qualified teacher, although you dare not say that you will definitely attain very high levels of realization, just spending your life as a true practitioner can already make you happy and peaceful.